Hello, Candace-Marie Mitcham here from Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices, Silverhawk Realty, East Idaho, and you are joining me for the Lending Lounge. Today, we are going to talk about where are national interest rates, where do we expect them to be for the balance of the year, and we are going to get into a hot topic about what is going on with real estate commissions. Stay tuned. Hey, Mike, thank you so much for gifting us with some of your time this week.
You are welcome. Very welcome.
So let's get started and talk about interest rates. I saw a very interesting vlog from one of our, famous, if you will, analysts, and I'd love to hear your opinion. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so big happenings last week was the most recent Federal Reserve meeting. It's also that once a quarter they come out with what they call their dot plot. That's basically their projections for where they see rates for the next handful of years. It goes out quite a ways into the future. Good news is they did not remove any rate decreases from their current dot plot from compared to the last one. So that was good. The market looked at that as being good. They're still basically projecting 3 rate decreases for this year and then some additional ones for next year. So long story short, the market reacted positively to that. And
Okay.
really, rates right now are averaging in the high sixes. That means there are some loans that are lower than that, some loans that are higher than that. What we project right now, what we currently see happening is basically a slow decrease in interest rates. It's again, not going to be anything dramatic, nothing too exciting. And I would say we'll probably finish the year. My prognostication is probably in the low sixes would be my guess as an average interest rate. I don't
Right.
believe we'll get down to where the majority or all of loans are in the fives, but I do think that's still coming at some point in the future, most likely during 2025.
Yeah. Well, and I'll link the information down below too. It's the vlog that I saw or the article. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was, but it was Lawrence Yun, who is
Yeah.
the financial analyst who works for NAR, the National Association of
Yes.
Realtors. So we all watch him very closely.
Yeah.
And what he was estimating was essentially the same. We're not going to get down into the fives this year. We're going to be somewhere in the sixes. And right now we're in the
Yeah.
high sixes. So that's trending exactly with where you, who is definitely in that realm, is putting your predictions as well.
Yeah, we try to stay in tune with it. I will tell you this, if we get into the fives on a majority basis, that means something bad has happened between
Yeah.
now and the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we want to take it, we want to take that with a grain of salt. Yeah.
Yeah, we're technically in a healthy spot right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know you wanted to get into a little bit of a touchy subject today for some folks. So why don't I just kind of hand it over to you and you can kind of ask some questions and I'll let you know my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Yeah. So obviously the big headline news in the real estate world here the last couple of weeks has been this lawsuit that got settled and how realtor compensation is changing and commissions are going to be paid and things like that. And
Right.
so I thought it was something important for us to hit on real quick. There's a lot of misinformation out
Yeah.
there. I think the number one thing that the average consumer needs to know is that this does not mean that a home seller cannot pay a buyer's agent. They
Right.
absolutely can. It's basically just changing the way that commission is negotiated.
Yeah.
It now cannot be, or in the future here, it still has a couple months to go before this changes,
Yeah.
but it cannot be put on the MLS as a predetermined amount,
Right.
basically.
Right. And let me just say, first of all, because I'm involved with a number of associations and committees
Okay.
and boards and things like that. So anything that I'm sharing in this video is my own personal opinion. It is not the opinions of any organization that I'm affiliated with, including my brokerage. But yes, you're right. So with the lawsuit, they have a suggested settlement. It has not actually been enacted
Yeah.
yet by another court. And again, there's tons of information if people want to go out there and look at it. But unfortunately, to your point, there's a ton of misinformation
Yeah.
out there. And so one thing that I can say, because I'm here in Idaho, and there is, for me, not going to be much that changes. And by that, I mean, for example, in other states, there are some states that require a buyer's representation to be signed working with a client. Okay. Not every state is that way. Idaho is also not that way. We love our freedom. So we like
Yeah.
people to have choice of agency. And so you have a choice to be a customer or a client. And when you're a client, you have signed representation as a buyer. As a seller,
Yeah.
you're always going to sign representation. Now, but we also have a disclosure form. It's called an agency disclosure form here in Idaho. And it explains that you can operate as a customer or a client. Okay. So that is still the way that it's operating today. until these changes come into effect, because you never know what's going to happen between now and perhaps when another judge looks at it. Okay. But as of right now, we give you a document, the agency disclosure, that says these are the two ways that you can operate. So you were fully informed. So every agent's going to present that because we want complete transparency. Now, if you decide, hey, I love Candace or whatever other agent you're going to be working with, I'd like to proceed and become a client, then we present you with what we call our buyer representation form. Okay. With the buyer representation, what we do is we actually step you through that. Okay. So we let you know you're actually hiring the brokerage, and I am an agent thereof of the brokerage. So it has all that information. And it also lets you know how I'm going to be paid and what I'm going to be paid. So what you will find is there are ways that are more common that people do that, which would be, X%. And I say X% because it can be different for any agent. You're going to be paid X% on the sale of whatever home they decide to get in contract on, right? So I think we're tracking so far, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And again, that can be different. Okay. And then you can also go on an hourly basis if you want. I can tell you that would probably cost you more, but that is that option.
Yeah.
There's also an option to go a flat fee. Hey, I'm going to charge you X number of dollars to take you out on this journey to purchase your home. You could do that as well. And so there's lots of ways that you can choose to approach compensation. Now, most of the time, because I think it's most convenient for folks and it's easy math, is they go, hey, I like the percentage. I don't have to worry about incidentals and all these kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
So that is still an option, always has been an option. Okay. Now, what I do when I present these to my clients is I make sure we go through that. Okay. And I tell them, this is what I charge, a certain percentage. And if for some reason we see a home that is going to be less than that percentage, I'm going to let you know that ahead of time, not to deter you from seeing the home. But again, we believe in freedom and transparency.
Yeah.
So I want you to know what is currently being offered from the sellers as compensation. Okay. And if you go in there and you fall in love with that home, that's okay. You're going in eyes wide open. Okay. What I do is I'm going to go in, we have another form, which is a direct seller compensation form. Okay. That's between the seller and myself. And I'm going to say, hey, I understand that you're offering this compensation for my services, my education, my training, my experience. I charge a different amount. Here's an agreement for you to compensate me to where I need to be compensated. Okay. 99% of the time, the seller agrees to do so. On the chance that they may not be able to, then that's a different conversation. And then I have to go back and talk to my clients and I go, okay, now we have to talk about it, right? Because there's a deficit of X% or X dollars or whatever that looks like. And then we're going to figure out how we make that a win-win in the whole situation to still get them in the house that they love.
Yeah.
Right. But if you're not having those conversations ahead of time, then people don't understand.
Yeah.
So I probably over disclose to my clients because I never want somebody to come back to me and go, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, in this case, I don't think you can over disclose as far as,
Right?
what you're going to be paid, how they're going to pay it. And I think
Yeah.
that's why you're one of the best right now, because
Well, thank you.
I have a feeling that you are going much farther above and beyond than the average agent, because I don't believe that conversation is being had in quite as much depth as you just described. So I think that's fantastic. And what the consumer needs to know is that now with just sort of the awareness and the rules that are in place, there may be some or more sellers that might not want to compensate you out of their thing. And so, that can create some issues. In the end, I personally believe this probably will not have a big impact on the market.
Yeah.
Buyers need agents. One of the worst things that can happen is for a buyer to go in unrepresented.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Ultimately, what I believe will happen with this is I just believe that the agent's commission will become a more negotiable part of the offer. Right. So a consumer will say, hey, I'd love to buy, or a buyer, I should say, would say, I'd love to buy your house. I want to offer $400,000. I need $5,000 to help with my closing costs, and I need you to pay my agent. And that'll be the full offer. And that seller will have to consider that versus an offer of $390 with no credits and no agent commission. And they'll have to decide which one is best. And it'll just be part of the negotiation process. That's what I believe that, how I believe this will shake out. But, I think buyer's agents are so much more valuable than just finding a house and writing up a contract. There's so many things that you do to help the buyer. I mean, so many things that consumers don't even realize are going on
I
behind
think
the
it's
scenes.
187 things when
Yeah.
they draw it out. I'll have
Yeah.
to pop it up and link it in here, all the things that happen. And I have to tell you, it's, I love going and looking at homes. I'm a house nut,
Yeah.
obviously. But people do, they find a lot of their own houses online with the way that things go
Yeah.
now. Find them. Okay.
Yeah.
Now with that, there's a lot that goes, I walk into a house, I'm immediately like Terminator, when he
Yeah. Yeah.
scans the room and I'm
Yeah.
looking, is this going to pass a FHA loan?
Yeah.
Right? Is it going to pass the appraisal? I guess I should say.
Mm-hmm.
If we have a VA appraisal, do I have chipping paint? Do I have a broken
Yeah.
window? Am I missing a stair rail? This and that. I have clients that have kids and I'm looking at it going, are you sure you want to have all these stairs when you have,
Yeah.
toddlers toddling around? I'm looking at if they have pets or do they have parents they know that are coming inbound? There's lots
Yeah.
of different things I'm going to be looking at from that perspective that they're not going to be, because you get excited as a buyer.
Oh,
I
absolutely.
always say you see the puppy and you want the puppy because it's cute, right?
Yeah.
You forget
Yeah.
about potty training and this and shots and everything else. You have to, same thing with houses. You really have to have that other person that has the knowledge and experience that does this on a daily basis to
Yeah.
help you look for those things that you're just not readily going to be aware of.
Yep. Yep. In fact, I would almost say that for a buyer's agent, finding the house might be the least important thing that you do
Absolutely.
because of
Yeah.
the internet,
Yeah.
internet and all these
Yeah.
sites. But yeah, you do so much and you negotiate, you have tough conversations when a buyer wants to request repairs or request a
Yeah.
price reduction or negotiate and you're bouncing back and forth. Like that's not an easy conversation for most people to have. And you
Yeah.
get to, your reward is that you get to do that, so
Exactly. Well, that's when
you
it gets
work on
really
behalf.
exciting for me, right? So
Yeah,
again, looking at the
exactly.
houses is fun.
Yeah.
But when we get to negotiation, contracts, and strategy, I light up.
Yeah.
That's where I really shine, right?
Yeah.
And part of my background is, and I'm not even sure that you and I have talked about this, but I worked for a decade in, Silicon Valley.
Oh.
And what I was doing in the last portion at that same company was escalation. I built an escalation team. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And so what we would do is all of our enterprise level clients, they would come in, they would have an issue, whatever, and we would have to go, what's the issue? What do
Mm-hmm.
we do? And a big part of it is listening to all the parties involved on what was going on and also
Mm-hmm.
listening and watching for the nonverbals, right?
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
solutioning and going, how do we do this to make it work for everybody? So I'm not just mad at you and I'm not just mad at you. And that's the
Yeah.
same thing in real estate. How do we make a cohesive solution that works for the buyer, the seller, the agents involved, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, the clients are number one, but how do we do it in a way that's as least painful as possible for
Yeah.
everyone so everybody's happy at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. I agree. Yep. Yep. And keep the emotion out of it. Keep it, keep it professional, right? There's just so many things. I actually heard a stat here just recently that of the transactions in the real estate world that end up in a legal dispute, right?
I was
Of
going to bring
those,
that up. Yeah, go ahead.
yep, yep. I heard that it's about 70 to 75% of them. One of
Yeah,
the parties was not represented by an
correct.
agent. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
And there's other things. So a couple of things. I think you're right, at least for us here in Idaho. I don't think that much is going to change. It's just going to
Yeah.
cause additional conversation for folks. And
Yep.
by that, I mean, you're going to have to have that conversation directly with another agent, brokerage to
Yeah.
brokerage, about what that compensation is going to look like. Nothing wrong with more conversation.
Mhm.
I'm old school. I want to get on the phone. I want to talk anyway. Right.
Yeah.
So I think there's going to be that. I think that, as we were saying earlier, there's going to be more conversation in the negotiation between the agents and the clients and education
Yeah.
for the sellers to go, hey, I understand you don't want to pay that commission. Okay.
Yeah.
But here's what's going to happen there. That's going to reduce your buyer pool. They
Yes.
can't do
So
it.
important.
So I
Yeah.
think there needs to be education there. Where I think the negative is going to be is this is going to, if it goes the way that they're predicting it's going right now, it is going to very much negatively impact first-time home buyers,
Hmm.
disenfranchised groups of people,
Yep.
right? And that's where we need to take
Veterans.
that's exactly,
Yeah.
because veterans can't pay a lot of services. One is
Yeah.
compensation. So
Yeah.
all of these folks that we try to come together and protect with fair housing and everything else, right?
Mhm.
Who's not your traditional, conventional buyer with
Yep.
800 credit, they are all going to be impacted. And those
Yeah.
are the folks that need us most.
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope, just to repeat that, I hope sellers, if you're a potential home seller in the future, I just hope you heard that. If you absolutely just refuse, you are not going to pay a buyer's agent, drawing a line in the sand. That is it. That is okay. That's your decision.
Right.
you will remove a segment of buyers from being able to purchase your house. They just
Yeah.
will not be able to buy it.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty large segment. Depending on the price of your home, it may be 50, 60, 70% of the buyers are now removed. And for
Yeah.
you as a home seller, that is not good. What you want
Mhm.
is you want competition. You want a lot of people making offers
Yep.
on your home and potentially driving the price up.
Yep.
So
100%.
that's just something to think about. And again, it's okay. Sellers will have that right here. The funny thing is they've always had that right.
Yeah. Always
This will
have.
just
That's the
be
thing. Yeah.
more, this will just be more verbal, more vocalized now.
Yeah.
But it is something to consider because it is not all good on the listing side if you just
Yeah.
absolutely refuse. So
Yeah. Yeah. And that's our job, is to educate them and go, here are your choices. Now, what would
yeah,
you like to do? Right.
absolutely.
So, one of the other things that's going to be important too for consumers is, and I think this is a good thing as well. Again, it's the conversation. Let's have more conversation.
Yeah.
And I think you need to be on the seller and the buyer side. I
Mhm.
think you need to be, in a way, should have been very stringent in vetting your agent, right?
Yeah.
So just a quick rundown here. So when you become licensed as a real estate salesperson, okay, you become a real estate agent. You've done 90 hours of school, you passed a test, and you've passed your background check.
Yeah.
That's a real estate agent.
Mhm.
Then if you choose to become a realtor, you join the National Association of Realtors. It is a membership that you participate in financially, and also you have
Mhm.
a much higher level of code of ethics that you subscribe
Yeah.
yourself to, that you are held to. And there is a wealth of education programs that go along with that. And so that's the difference between the two. And then on
Mhm.
top of that, there's additional education you could do. We have to do so many hours every 2 years just to maintain your basic license. But
Yeah.
there's so much more. For example, I just finished my what they call C2EX, commitment to excellence.
Wow.
Okay. So only 60 to 70%, that number keeps coming up, of real estate agents are realtors. Okay. So I
Okay.
am a realtor. And then also I just finished the commitment to excellence. 6% of realtors have that.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
So talk to your agents. What are your additional qualifications, your endorsements, your designations? That means they're involved doing it full time. Okay.
Mhm.
And putting in the extra work, not just the bare minimum. And I go another step further and say, what else are you doing in the community? For example,
Mhm.
I'm involved with the Chamber of Commerce. I'm involved with Rotary. I'm involved with a number of different organizations, including
Yeah.
our board that is the association governing our local agents, right?
Yeah.
So those are the types of folks. And there's plenty of other agents here that do the same level of things that I do, not all, but there's a group of us. So
Yeah.
ask the question and just make sure you're getting somebody who is really a full-time invested agent that's doing it all the time,
Yeah.
that's seeking education because they are working hard for you, even when you're not their
Yes.
client, right?
People don't realize how much you do behind the scenes. It
Yeah.
really is
Yeah.
quite a lot. Yeah.
But so I think all these conversations are just going to flush that information out. It's going to
Yes.
shed light where it needs to shed light. And guess what? It's going to be better for the agents to get more competitive, meaning their training and education. And I think it's going to be better for the consumers to just be more knowledgeable about the things where they
Yeah.
go, I have a professional, they're handling it.
Yep.
Let's educate them. Let's
Yeah.
empower them to
Yeah.
be really, really comfortable and intelligent buyers and sellers.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
ultimately the best of the best agents are going to shine through
Yeah.
this, right? Anytime things get a little volatile, change up, the best of the best shine.
Hmm.
And others, they may decide a different career choice
Yeah.
is for them. And that ultimately makes our field better.
Right. And it goes to the lending side too. I mean, like you're talking about, if
Yeah.
somebody tries to go to loan and they go, hey, I want X% of concessions, you said that $3,000 or the 2% or whatever.
Yeah.
They are not going to know necessarily that they can only have so much concessions to be
Yeah.
applied based on the type of loan they have. But when they
Mhm.
have a great lender that's going to take the time to talk them through that, and a great
Yeah.
agent, they come together and you have the dynamic duo that's really going to help
Yes.
them through the experience.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So more to follow on that
Yes.
there. But what
There's
I
still
would
so much to
say,
be determined out of this. Yeah.
yeah, just ask the question. And for the consumers, ask your agents about it. It's okay, and
Mhm.
if your agent can't talk to you about it, so make sure you have one that is willing and able to have a very in-depth conversation with you
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
And, that's all I can really say. It's pretty simple to me. Talk,
Yeah.
communicate.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, this is a great topic. Thank you for for shedding some light for me on it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you ever have clients that are over on the other side that really haven't found an agent yet, even though I'm not in their area, I'm always happy to jump on the phone and have a call with them and just kind of help calm the waters a little bit for them and
Okay.
help educate them about what's going on. So
Oh,
happy to
that's
do that.
fantastic. Yeah.
All right. Well, next week, same bat time, same bat channel.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Thanks, Mike. We always appreciate you coming and sharing your information with us and just having a chat.
Likewise. Appreciate it so much.